Yo, so here's the thing with the boomers. It's like on one hand, I love them, right? There's things about them that I really love. You know, the 1960s in general, I think had a lot of really awesome energy, and I think there was really some real magic that was going on there in the 1960s. I know we have a tendency, especially on the right, to look back at that era and see it as kind of all bad. There's a kitty up here I don't want to hit. Because, there was a lot of social conditioning, what do you call that? Tavistock Institute type stuff, or was the other one, Frankfurt School type stuff got pushed at that time. But I think that the impulse, that the generative impulse, the energy that was blowing up, that kind of started, that came from there, or started all of that, was definitely something good, something positive, So, there's things about it that I like. I mean, the things about the boomers that I like, obviously I like their music, right? Boomer music is like the best. And Gen X too. Like, that was the glory days of rock and roll, right? I mean, I'm wearing a Metallica t-shirt right now. I mean, those guys, are Metallica boomers, or are they Gen X? I think they're, not sure. Sort of cuspy, but there's a lot of, from the 70s and the 80s, man, had the best music, dude. So, there's things about that I like. And it is interesting, kind of funny how I grew up with all of this, like, boomer culture, Gen X culture, and I really believe still a lot of that stuff. Like, I still feel the essence. Like, right now, I just started reading a Jack Kerouac book that a friend of mine gave me years ago, but I never actually read it. I started reading it, and dude, the essence of like what Jack Kerouac is describing in this book, I think it's called the Dharma Bums. The Dharma Bums. It's like, dude, there's Gen Z could absolutely relate to Jack Kerouac. You know what I'm saying? And because, like, what Jack Kerouac is, the way he's describing just living life, hopping trains and just being amongst the regular folk, man, just enjoying life in a really basic, simple way. Like, dude, I think Gen Z absolutely could vibe with that, and that's how I know, like, this really is like a new 1960s that we're living through. And it's so weird because we've watched these boomers now go from being like Gen Z, how Gen Z is today, or or a certain contingent within Gen Z, the meaningful contingent within Gen Z. The way they are today is like how the boomers used to be once upon a time, but now they're not so much like that. Some of them are, right? So, and here's the thing. So I know that some of them are still that way. They still feel the call to be free and to just live life, and that includes the risk, because there's risk that comes with freedom, right? But I guess my question, that's sort of how what type of boomer you're dealing with, is like, it kind of comes down to like a couple things. Pensions. Because it really, basically, the way the pension works is, like, in order for them to get paid on their pension, they need millennials and Gen Zers to continue to pay into these pensions, or whatever they may be, annuities, I don't know. I think mainly pensions, right? Annuities are different, but so it's like, my question to a boomer is, are you going to look me dead in the eye and say that I have to work for the next 30 years in order to fill your pension, keep your pension full? Are you going to look at a young guy and tell him that he has to work for the next 30, 40 years basically sell his life, sell his soul, so that he can fill your pension. You know, because if you're gonna say that, then you're not really human anymore. Something has you're out of touch. You're out of touch with your humanity. You know what I mean? So that's an easy one, right? Because most boomers would say, "Yeah, fuck you. I had to do it, so you have to do it." And that's an evil mentality. That's that chauvinism. That's that self-importance that we're talking about. That I've been talking about. You know, same with like military quote unquote service. Like, are you going to tell a young guy that he has to join this military madness, this evil militaristic machine, so that like why? Like so he can go die in Iran or die in Ukraine or what? For what? Like, what exactly is the purpose of this? Just to maintain the oil, right? Just to make sure we keep access to the oil reserves, so that you can keep cheaper gas prices. Like you're willing to spend the lives of these young people so that you can keep prices down, right? I mean, isn't that kind of all these wars basically amount to? You know, they're gonna sit here and say that it has to do with freedom and all of this, but it's like the same people who say they're pro-freedom are down with throwing up flock cameras and data centers everywhere. So it's like, obviously that's not true. Like, obviously they don't really mean that. But anyway, just some thoughts about boomers. You know, basically it's like there's, like I said, there's things I love about the boomers. You know, there's things in their history that I think are really important. In a lot of ways, I feel like we're basically finishing what they started. And I know there are boomers today who are like on our side, you know what I mean? Who are not on team flock camera, who are not on team forced conscription. What do you call it? You know, the draft. People aren't like pro draft, aka forced conscription, or people who, you know, boomers who are not pro data center. I mean, if you're a boomer who's had a data center built in your backyard, you probably are not. You probably get it. So that's why it's like I don't necessarily want to just paint with the broadest brush, right? The guy who really taught me most of what I know about sorcery and about the divine powers of the cosmos is himself a boomer, a child of the 60s, right? So it's like I do feel a lot of gratitude to them. But I think that's the key question, the key distinction. Where do you stand with pensions? Where do you stand with, you know, if you're going to look a young man in the eye and tell him how he has to spend the next 40 years of his life so that you can have the next 30 years of your life from 65 to 85 or whatever, you know, you get to chill out in front of the talking box because you know, whatever, like that to me is a very important question. So yeah, once again, just some thoughts. Have a good one, y'all.